Hello fellow lovers of the liminal and weird, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. I have found another 60s psychedelic sci-fi gem. I think this one's probably more famous than other ones that I've looked at, so saying I found it is a bit of a misnomer. I've been pointed to this book by other booktubers over time. Outlaw booksellers talked about it before, and of course he talks about Michael Moorcock quite often, so I was excited about this. Interestingly, I knew of Michael Moorcock in music before I knew of him as a science fiction writer, in that I really loved the band Hawkwind, and looking through their discography and reading about their history, they had a tendency to bring Michael Moorcock on stage with them to recite poetry that he had written, and it's awesome stuff. Just little vignettes between their songs where he would read these science fiction poems. I mean, he's probably the best science fiction poet that really has ever existed, in my opinion. I don't know a lot of science fiction poets, so that might not be saying much, but it's awesome. Listen to Space Ritual. I think the CD is not Michael Moorcock reading. I don't think he's the one that was doing the reading that night, but they're his words that are being read, and they're incredible. So I've always been excited about the prospect of reading Michael Moorcock, so I came into this very excited because I knew he was the Hawkwind poet. And then, of course, watching Outlaw Bookseller talk about Michael Moorcock got me even more excited about his work. And then one thing that I knew is that I wanted science fiction and not fantasy. I do plan on reading Michael Moorcock's fantasy in the future, but I wanted to start with science fiction. So the final program became the obvious choice. This is the story of a character named Jerry Cornelius, who's protagonist, but he is not a protagonist in the normal sense, just as this is not a narrative in the normal sense. This is a chaotic novel. If you are in need of a very structured, easy to understand story, this will not be the novel for you. Even Jerry as a protagonist, to me at times, actually seemed like an antagonist. He is definitely a anti-hero. At times you're really emotionally connected to him, at other times you're shocked by what he's doing. And the book deals with themes of mind manipulation through hallucinogenic drugs. It deals with battles that involve hallucinogenic drugs. It deals with shifting realities. It deals with computers that have the knowledge of all mankind. It deals with gender. The concept of gender is all throughout this book. Jerry Cornelius himself is bisexual, and we see different concepts of this, and a lot of this stuff is connected to the movement that was going on in the early to late 60s in London that eventually became what we call Summer of Love, the hippie movement. But you have to take all your ideas of that time and throw it away, because this was written in 2 weeks in January 1965. So the concept of this movement was just happening, was just exploding, and when you wipe away all the history of what the movement became, you have this incredible book that outlines Michael Moorcock's perception of what it was and what it was going to be. And it's incredible. It's well thought out. It's philosophical. It is really an awesome time capsule, being able to see the way that people thought about the movement that was occurring just as it was beginning to blossom. It's really incredible, and a fun read just for that. I absolutely loved the communication about music in here. Unfortunately, it was written in 65, but was a little too shocking to be published in that year. So Avon Books in the U.S. decided to publish it in 1968, which I have a copy of here. This is a first U.S. edition, March 1968. So really the first time this was ever published. And then in November of... No. And then it wasn't published in the UK until October 1969. It also had a movie made about it in 1973. Never even heard of this movie. I'm kind of interested in watching it, except for that Michael Moorcock has come out about it and said it was not an adaptation that he was happy with at all, and he's always been very vocal about that, so I doubt this movie is going to do this book any justice. Also, I don't know who in their right mind would try to make a movie out of this. It is the most book ever. There's no way you could really make a movie out of this, so I find it kind of crazy that they actually tried to make a movie out of it. Maybe I will watch it just to see how they did. But so it did have some popular appeal, absolutely. When it came out in '69 in UK, the movie came out 4 years later. The pros of this book are many. Michael Moorcock is probably one of the best prose science fiction writer there is. Just absolutely incredible. I love his prose. He's also one of the most forward-thinking science fiction writers of his time, which is incredible to see and made me very happy to read all the this feels dated stuff that I usually get in science fiction. Wasn't here for this. It was absolutely incredible. However, it did feel dated in a sense of how it discussed the movement that was coming out of London at the time. But it's important to remember as we read this, although they Moorcock might express some ideas that seem dated or cliche now, he was writing about these concepts first, right? It isn't cliche because he's there first. The only reason it's dated is because time has passed. When he was writing this, it was incredible. And I feel like if you're able to keep that idea in mind while you're reading it, while the spy stuff, and Michael Moorcock says this isn't a spy, Jerry Cornelius is an urban adventurer, but it reminded me of James Bond when I was reading the first part of this novel. If you keep in mind that he was taking that genre and turning it on its head, if you look at the things that he presents, the LSD weapons and that kind of stuff, you realize really quickly that he's not falling into any cliches. This is incredible writing that I feel like has aged very, very well. Even though at first glance, as you're reading through, you might go, oh, this feels like a very 60s. Parts of it do feel very 60s, but he was the first one that decided he wanted to write a novel about this movement that was occurring. So he really is breaking new ground, which is incredible. Yeah, that's the only real con I can think of with this, is that at times it seemed dated, but just all I had to do was remind myself it's not dated, it's first. And it really moved along very well after that. It can lose its grip with reality. My deep read's going to be interesting and probably a little hard because this is chaos in book form. But I think I can nail it down. So if you're interested, if you've read this, or if you want to read it, give it a read and watch my deep read to see kind of where I took it from there. So yeah, I highly recommend that you give this one a read. It was really fun. I enjoyed the entire reading experience. Also, I want to mention that Outlaw Bookseller is about to start doing a lot of Michael Moorcock related stuff on his channel. So if you haven't subscribed to him, go subscribe to him. He's actually going to meet Michael Moorcock, I believe, in September. So yeah, you can expect some really incredible stuff going on Outlaw Bookseller's channel. So go on over there and give him a sub if you haven't already. All right, if you watched this to the end, thank you very much. If you liked it, please click like. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe because we'll be making a lot more of it in the future. Thank you for watching.